Let us offer our consecration to the Lord. Lord, we offer up to you this day, and we ask that we continue to glorify your name, celebrating what you have done for us and leading us to a deeper understanding of who we truly are. As we continue in this octave of Easter, we continue celebrating Easter Sunday throughout the entire week, and we recognize your resurrection changed our whole understanding of who we truly are. And we celebrate this, and we recognize and celebrate all you are doing through us and for us. And we say this through Christ our Lord. Well, today, of course, is Tuesday of the octave of Easter. And the readings, by the way, from now throughout the entire Easter season, the first reading will come to us from the Acts of the Apostles. And so we're seeing that right now. And I haven't been focused on the readings. We're just kind of focused on really understanding what Easter means and how this all changes everything. And I want to kind of talk about that even more today. And if we can get to the readings, we will. But now, again, we see that Jesus resurrected from the dead. And in doing so, that changes everything. Now everything is different. And now the apostles are understanding that everything has changed now. Well, let's talk for a minute about what was thought about Jesus prior to his resurrection. What they thought about him is that he was the Messiah, meaning he was going to be a political leader that would overthrow the Romans, and in doing so, he would make Israel the sovereign state again. But if we think about that for a second, and one of the great sources of this is the Rational Bible series from Dennis Prager, which I definitely would recommend to you. Some people listening to this may not like Dennis Prager. You know what? He writes great. I mean, I listen to him on a regular basis. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I listen to him. I enjoy what he has to say. But one of the things that he is great at is this Rational Bible series. Well, he's great at many things, but that was one of them. And so when we look at that understanding, he will explain that really the reason for the Jews is to bring the message of the wisdom of God and the message of monotheism. So we have to go back 2,000 years at the death and resurrection of Jesus and kind of look at what the world is. In the world, it's a pagan world except for the Jews. Remember, the world at that time was basically the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Europe. But it was mostly that which was contained within the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, of course, believed very simply that if everyone was a member of the Roman Empire, peace would exist in the world, hence the term Pax Romana. And you've all also heard the term, which is very common during the Reagan administration, of Pax Americana, that if everyone was working with the United States, we could build peace in the world. Well, the Romans were basically similar in that idea. If everyone was part of the Roman Empire, we could build peace in the world. And that was actually one of the things that led the Romans to go and conquer other nations, just for that reason, that they would basically bought into the idea that we will conquer them to make them one of us and we will have peace in the world. So we see all that going on. So if we think of Jesus going to overthrow the Roman Empire, which they would not have tolerated, and they didn't, they eventually destroyed the temple, and they left they basically took away the sovereign state, which was at the time Judah. So the Romans wouldn't have tolerated that. But here's the key. People were under the impression that he was going to be this sovereign ruler because they didn't have any other way of thinking. They didn't have any other way of knowing. And as soon as Jesus resurrects, now all of a sudden their understanding changes, because now they have a bigger understanding of the way the world has now become, that Jesus is resurrected. So now it's no longer, they realize it's no longer about the political. It's really, and this is something a lot of people don't fully understand, because no one really talks about it. It's really about the anthropological. It's really what Jesus did by resurrecting from the dead. He changed our self-understanding and brought within it a spiritual and a physical understanding that did not exist prior to that. Obviously, the Jews had an understanding, but we also have to realize something else that's very important. The other religions that were not Jewish, all the pagan religions, they obviously believed in gods, but their gods were a higher form of the natural world. Hence, where did they live? They lived on Mount Olympus as far as the Greeks were concerned. Okay, let me ask you, where did God live? He lived in heaven. And where was heaven? Well, it was up. Well, where is this up? Do you understand? Whereas you could say Mount Olympus in the times of the Greeks, but you couldn't say that much more than God. And then, of course, as Jesus said, God is within. So now we have an understanding of God that is very different from the pagan understanding of God. And if we even carry it even further with the Trinity, that we believe in three persons and one God, we realize that our understanding of God is radically different than the understanding of the time. And once we understand God is radically different than our previous concept of God, then we understand that we are different than our previous concept of us. And this is one of the major changes. It's a change in theology and it's a change in anthropology. We'll talk more on the other side of the break. You're listening to St. Anthony Overnight from St. Anthony in Alston. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. And don't forget our website, CatholicAudiomedia.com. That can connect to the parish. You're welcome to come to our Mass every single Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. We also have a discussion group, by the way, on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock p.m. in the rectory. Come check that out as well, which would be tonight, by the way. But all that is going on at St. Anthony Parish in Alston, Massachusetts. You connect to us through the website. You can also find us at stanthonyalston.org. So we are here talking about this very powerful change that has happened. So this is the reason why, if you read the prologue of John and you read the first letter of John, you have this tremendous excitement that is, we now have this new understanding of who God is. This is what we've seen. Now, we have become children of God. We have been given the power to become children of God, and our whole being has changed, as has our whole understanding. So as you can see, it's not about morality, it's not about politics, it's about anthropology, which obviously didn't really exist at the time. But what is anthropology? The study of man. It's also about theology, the study of God. But our deeper understanding of God, that Jesus is the face of God, and he becomes the face of God who is conquered death, and we see that gives us a deeper understanding of God, which teaches us a deeper understanding of us. And we go back to that. Now, one of the interesting things that we're dealing with is, what is the first temptation? The first temptation is, you will be like gods. What is it that Jesus promises us? We will be divinized. We will become like God in a different way, where we will actually be able to see God face to face. So we will become in a position where we won't become equal to God any more than the angels are equal to God, but we won't be the same human beings we are right now. We will become glorified body and soul to a point that we can look at God face to face, which even Moses couldn't do. Moses was very limited, and no one could look upon Moses when he looked upon God. So as you see that. So our whole understanding of our being changes, and the Lord is bringing us to this whole new, greater understanding. Do you see that? So when we look at what is happening, we see that's where our focus is. And our new understanding leads us to act in a new way. So, for example, maybe I'll tell this quick story, is one of the things that I used to do when I was, I've done in the past when I've gone to vending machines, and, someone sometimes will leave a couple coins in a vending machine by mistake, and people say, oh, good, finders keepers. I don't know. That's not my money, therefore I'm not going to take it. And someone will say, yes, but if you don't take it, someone else will. We'll let them. But that's not my money, because I have a whole different way of looking at things because of my experience in being united with Christ. That also means I rely on Christ more than I would. And this is why this is a real issue when we focus on this strictly as morality. We come to realize that we have this experience with Christ which changes our whole self-understanding. This is the message of Easter as part of all this. I mean, it goes deeper than this, but I only have 13 minutes. We'll talk more tomorrow. Have yourself a blessed day. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. If you would like to support our program, please consider a donation to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. There are several ways to consider this. One is to purchase any of our merchandise, which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. There are coffee mugs there. There's also my latest book, Encounter Christ in Your Humanity, all of which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can also donate to the show directly through either the Donate tab, also at CatholicAudiomedia.com, or by sending a donation through the U.S. Postal Service with your questions and comments at 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. That's St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. Finally, the best way you can support our parish is to attend Mass on Sundays at 10 o'clock and be a part of our parish. We thank you for any support you would like to give to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, the sponsoring parish for this media outreach to Catholics and other Christians in the WROL, WEZE, and podcast listening audience. In Cristo vivimos.